Hi, my name is Gabrielle and I'm from Switzerland, and I'd like to bounce back on what you were saying. Worldwide, we're currently facing major issues at the moment between climate change, the resource scarcity, increased migration flux, job automation. Like in 20 years, things are going to change very quickly. And we have this opportunity as this group of country to benefit from all our experiences facing, different challenges before, but perhaps that might give us an advantage in what's coming, because we see a global power shift and chips are being redistributed in a way that perhaps won't be in our favor. I mean, historically, the European region has been quite blessed and has perhaps taken liberties with the rest of the world, and now that's changing. So seeing how Europe can contribute to a better world, but also make sure we don't lose somehow the benefits that we managed to acquire during that time. I think it's a huge challenge, and I'm glad that there is collaboration between European countries, and I think that should increase, because this is the only way we're going to make it through what's coming.
For those who are kind of, say, the losers of the more integration, what would you tell them? I mean, for them, it's not about fear anymore, it's about losing their livelihood. How would we take the United Europe concept to them?
I think it's an excellent question that you're asking, because as soon as your livelihood is threatened, it makes enlightened choices very difficult. So I would tell them to start lobbying their politics for a systemic change to cater for those disruptions that are going to come. And for example, a universal basic income is a possibility, but to encourage either governments or at European level, encourage them to change the shift from capitalism only, but consider other options to make sure that social welfare, for example, is not only dependent on employment, and that everyone can have access to housing, food, medical care, regardless of your employment situation. And I would really encourage them to go lobby.
Well, wouldn't you say that another option for them is to vote for parties which promise to you that they can retain your jobs and that they can close the borders? Wouldn't that also be an option for these?
It's a very much of a short-term fix, because with automation, AI, it doesn't matter if you close the border. The amount of jobs to keep the society running is just going to decrease, immigrants or not. So there won't be enough jobs even if you remove the immigrants.
I think it plays into the concept of what is a job, because at the same time the population is aging. We know that we have to spend more time with both children and older folks, and a lot of that work is today unpaid jobs, because we separate into jobs and the rest. And I'm not sure whether I'm in favor of a universal income. It's still too complicated all for me. But I know for sure that we have to redefine completely the role of work in a situation of a company or the public office or something, and what the rest is happening. And we have to look for very creative solutions. What is very interesting is that what you see is that as soon as you have a common enemy, you get unification. People want to work together to fight the enemy. So if we can get the urgency that the enemy is not the migrant, the poor migrant or refugee from Syria or wherever they're coming, but the big enemy is all these things that you were sketching, people may realize, oh shit, but then I need I'm going to stereotype now, but a German engineer, and I need a Swiss insurance company, and I need the warmth and the creativity and startups of Turkey and so on. So you see, they better look for solutions, and they will very well work together. So that would be helpful to create a common enemy, in fact, of humanity in a way.
Let's just, if you look quickly at the political situation in Europe at the moment, how do we bring the message that you are preaching?
Very simple answer, we just should copy paste what we're doing with Trump, because it's a lot of fake news. And the only way to demystify is to constantly explain, to constantly put the data back on the table, and the New York Times is doing a terrific job in doing exactly. That's the only way that I've ever learned, because once you're telling them you're wrong or this, or try to put the blame on the bad leaders if you want, it won't work. It will only make them stronger. The only thing that will make them weaker is either stop talking about them altogether, or make sure that we understand that this is fake.
Something else that can be done is run small experiments and take the advantage that we have many different countries with many different setups, and we have countries who have, for example, different sets of policies for certain items, and use those examples to see what works, what doesn't, and then really communicate about that and see, okay, perhaps if it worked in Finland, it might work in Portugal. Sure, there are many cultural differences, but it's worth taking into account that we do have example of situations that function. So let's exchange all those benefits that we're noticing from those small items and like bring them to a broader perspective. And that can perhaps convince those anti-everything party that things are possible, because at the end of the day, I believe they also want a better life for themselves and their kids.
I'm Rogier.
Your name and...
Rogier from the Netherlands. I want to tag on a little bit on what was said earlier on sort of, on the one hand, create that common enemy, or trying to rally people behind something that they share. And it also taps back to something earlier said on purpose. And it was kind of said a little bit like a side note, but what I believe we have to do is bank on that purpose more, and also add an element of emotion and symbolism to it. Europe is a very rational equation, if you want to, in the way things are being communicated. It's a technocratical institution. People don't rally behind that. That's just not how it works. We know from a lot of psychological research that people are just prone to kind of reject any factual statement that does not confirm their already held belief, and the other way around, overestimate or kind of amplify any sort of factual information that confirms their previously held belief. So you have to do it, make all the facts, show all the benefits, throw out the data, but we need something else. And that is tagging back to that purpose of, okay, why was Europe originally invented? And that is clearly to have to create a sense of solidarity, but also indeed that war element of creating a place that's just homogeneous in terms of safety, physical safety. And the generations to come might have kind of forgotten about that, and I'm not necessarily a direct indeed sufferer of war, but I think that's something we can rally behind, a purpose, like a sense of what Europe is about on an emotional level, rather than all the facts, the pluses and the minuses. You know, I'm an engineer, I'm prone to sort of look at pluses and minuses, but let's try to get it a level deeper.